Senator John McCAIN, the newly elected chairman of the Armed Services Committee, our guest from Capitol Hill. And Senator, good morning to you and welcome back.
Good morning, Bill.
You were just overseas, Iraq, Afghanistan, near the Syrian border in Turkey. What did you learn on that trip that applies to what we're covering now out of Paris?
Well, first of all, if we stick with a calendar withdrawal from Afghanistan, we will see the same kind of failure we saw in Iraq because of our total withdrawal there. In Iraq, they're not ready to take on ISIS in the second largest city of Mosul. They have no strategy to defeat ISIS, and ISIS continues to do very well. We haven't even been able to drive them out of the town of Kobani using the world's greatest air assets, which are
Is that true?
States of America.
Because on Monday of this week, Admiral John Kirby at the Pentagon pretty much suggested that we've got them boxed in and we've got them cornered.
Well, we may have all that. They're still there in Kobani. But I think the fundamental point here is that these attacks that just took place in Paris were professional to a degree that would have required some previous experience and training. Young men have come by the thousands to fight for ISIS in Iraq and Syria, and some of them have gone back. And we have no strategy to defeat ISIS. They're killing more of the Free Syrian Army than we are training because we refuse to stop Bashar Assad with a no-fly zone. For a long period of time, unless the strategy changes to defeat ISIS, and that means a much greater United States military involvement, you are going to see these young men return to the countries which they came from, better trained, better equipped, and more dedicated and radicalized to commit atrocities such as we saw happen in France yesterday.
Based on what you have seen and heard from the president, the commander-in-chief, and pretty much based on what he has done, I mean, do you have any confidence that will go the way you want? Will there be an increase?
I have no confidence at all because they have no strategy to defeat ISIS. As long as ISIS exists, and they've done very well, if you look at it objectively, then you will see a danger of these people returning to Europe, to the United States even, or other countries, and commit acts of terror. They are hardened fighters, and they are radicalized, and they showed yesterday that they're capable of pretty professional operations. And it's all because of a failed policy beginning with Iraq, where we didn't leave a sustaining force behind, and that situation collapsed. Now we're about to see the same movie in Afghanistan, and we are there's so many things wrong with their so-called announced strategy, of which there is none. For example, treating Syria and Iraq as different places, propping up Bashar Assad, believing somehow the Iranians will help us. By the way, the fighting that's succeeding in Iraq is done by Shiite militias, which are controlled by the Iranians, who are the same people we fought during the surge. It's really just incredible.
Reading from the New York Times now, just this morning. In recent weeks, as security officials in Paris and elsewhere in Europe have grown increasingly wary of the return of young citizens from fighting in Syria and Iraq. Those are fighters who grew up in those respective countries.
Yes, but we've known this for a long time. This is not a revelation, Bill. This has been going on. When ISIS began succeeding, which by the way, we predicted, then it became obvious that these are fighters from all over the world, including a large number from Europe, and they're going to go back to the country they came from, and they're a direct threat to the United States of America, and there is no strategy in order to defeat ISIS
So what do we
today.
do? What did we do, Senator?
We have to develop a strategy, and that's going to require United States involvement. Not the same as before, but certainly boots on the ground, forward air controllers, training, a really robust effort to defeat ISIS, which right now we do not have and will not have a defeat of them for the foreseeable future under the present lack of strategy that exists today.
Let me show you something we did 5 months ago, okay? We took a poll. We wanted to know around 9/11 if Americans felt safer or less secure today. 45% say less safe. 43% say we indeed are safer.
I'll bet you when you take that poll in the next week or so, you will see that 43% decline into the 30s.
Unfortunately, I think you're right about that. Senator John McCain, thank you, and welcome home from another trip overseas.